What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Nick. I'm your host. Today we're in Dallas, Texas, retracing the steps of Lee Harvey Oswald, allegedly assassinated JFK. As you could tell by now, I'm making my intro where it all happened. My plan is to, assuming in the video, now I'm not saying my views one way or another really, but assuming in the video that Lee Harvey Oswald did in fact shoot and kill JFK, we are going to take his exact route, the exact steps, everything, even down where he took the cab going this way, this way, this way, this way. We're going to take the exact route he did throughout that day. I hope you all enjoy. Let's begin the tour. All right, the date is November 22nd, 1963 at approximately 12:30 p.m. JFK's car right down this street, around here, right there. X marks where, actually it looks like there's a couple X's there, but X marks the first two shots. And then the car would have came out this way. And if we zoom in right there, that is the fatal shot to the head. Like I said in the beginning of the video, not going to discuss conspiracies. We're just going with allegedly Oswald shot JFK, and this is the story of what happened. But right here, the old school book depository. Gosh, these trees weren't here back then. If they were, we wouldn't have been able to get the shot off, obviously. Right up here, we have toured this, I believe, two or three times. It's really cool. If you're ever in Dallas, this is like the #1 thing to do, surprisingly. For how dark it is and sad it is, this is the #1 thing to see. But right up there, gosh, where the window's open. I'll have to zoom in a little too. Actually, I have the window open. That is allegedly, once again, where Oswald stuck his gun out and would have shot the president. Right down that way. If I remember correctly, I'm not going to read this all. This is part of the, oh yeah, here we go. Part of the speech that President Kennedy was to deliver at the Dallas Trade Mart on November 22nd, 1963. The speech that never happened. And what I find absolutely crazy, wow, that sounds bright. What I find crazy is this spot right here. This is where Abraham Zapruder, famous video that we all see, that we all have seen of JFK's assassination. So he was literally standing right here. If you've ever seen the movie Parkland, oh my gosh, such a good movie. But I'm pretty sure they actually came here and filmed some of it in the actual grassy knoll. But yeah, he would have been standing right on top of here if I could get up. And this is the exact shot he would have had. Wow. So I made my way to the back of what is now the 6-4 Museum. Now back in that time, this whole thing here wouldn't have been here. Even where the elevator is, that wasn't here, because obviously this is part of the museum now. This is actually where you enter the museum. He was confronted by Officer Baker, who actually pulled a gun on him. But thankfully for Oswald, the Oswald supervisor was with the officer and said, "Oh no, he works here." So they just let him go. And then he went and made his way down the steps and would have walked out the front door, which we'll go to now. Once he came out this door, he would have walked straight down this way, right down Elm Street, just like a nightmare on Elm Street. While we're here, I want to go check this out. Formerly the Texas School Book Depository. Site was yada yada, but I always find this interesting right here. You know, which is fair. I understand it. He died before anything could actually be proven, so allegedly is still the correct term. Now, what we're going to do next we're going to take the exact route he did. Gonna go down Elm Street. He would have hopped on a bus. We're gonna go to supposedly right around where he jumped on the bus. He only rode 2 blocks. Then he went and got a cab, and then we're gonna take the exact cab ride back to where his boarding house is. A lot of stuff going on. All right, join me, let's go. All right, we made our way down a couple blocks. It's very hard to match up today because everything's one way, can't go down this way, Elm turns into this. But anyway, right around here, actually we're right in front of the Renaissance Tower, another RoboCop filming location, haha. But right in front of the Westin Hotel, this is where, somewhere right here, would have been where Oswald hopped on the bus, allegedly hopped on the bus, as you know how that goes. There's the bus. So just like that bus, Oswald would have got on the bus somewhere right around here, and it was actually heading right back to the School Book Depository. However, as you can imagine, this was right after the shooting happened, and everything was going nuts. Traffic was so bad. The town was in a frenzy because this has never happened before. So the traffic was so bad, the bus actually came to like a dead stop, and they were just sitting there. So Oswald panics. He basically only rides the bus 2 blocks, and then he gets out, and then he decides he's gonna walk. So then he walks about another block or so to Lamar Street, where he's gonna try and get a taxi cab. So let's go there next. All right, next stop, Oswald would have made his way down here to the bus stop, which is actually still today a Greyhound bus stop, but just as these taxi cabs are. Oswald would have picked up a taxi, and let's talk about that next. Okay, so now we're going to attempt to do, can't really do it using Google Maps, so I just got to go off my notes right here, but we're going to take the exact taxi cab route that Oswald would have took, and it should take us right back to his boarding house. So he would have picked up the taxi right exactly where we are, basically. And like I said, there's even taxi cabs still sitting here today. But we're gonna go straight, go south on Lamar, because right now we are on Lamar Street till we hit Jackson. All right, so here we are, Lamar. Now we're gonna make the right on Jackson, and this is basically sitting in the cab with Lee Harvey Oswald. We made our left on Austin. Now we're on Wood. Would have made the right on Wood. I guess the cab would have made all these crazy turns because of the fact that I said the city was going nuts that day. You know, everybody was running everywhere like chickens with their heads cut off, you know, understandably. So the cab was like, let me see, right, left, straight. So left on Houston, and then we're gonna follow Houston over the bridge across the river. Through the woods to grandmother's house we go. And the taxi driver would have went straight on Houston, which we are now on, over to the bridge, basically in West Dallas. Now we're going right to the boarding house Oswald was staying at. All right, we found some parking. It's always fun. Don't want to get towed, you know, especially with Nicole sitting in the car. But anyway, when the cab driver brought Oswald to his boarding house, I saw in an interview or read something online that for whatever reason, he did not drop him off exactly in front of the boarding house, which was straight ahead. He dropped him off a block or so down the street. So I'm guessing maybe he would have been dropped off like right here. I don't know. Anyway, let's go check out the boarding house. So as we're walking, let's just kind of go through, continue our story on that day. So allegedly, Oswald arrived at 1 p.m. The housekeeper noted Oswald rushed into the house, rushed into his room, and left right after. Supposedly, he changed his clothes and grabbed his .38 caliber pistol. Where these flags are, see the Texas flag there? That is the boarding house. And there it is today, Oswald's boarding house. Oswald Rooming House Museum. I saw an interview with this woman who actually still owns it, and she said, you know, like this apartment right there is new. They're wanting to, all these real estate companies are coming to her to demo the house, and she's like, no, this is a piece of history. I think she believes he didn't do it, but I'll throw in some pics right now. That she kept the house, it's like a time capsule. It looks the exact same as it did. All right, made our way to the next location. Now this is very interesting because this exact sidewalk, this would have been the exact sidewalk Lee Harvey Oswald, on that day on his way over to the theater, he would have been walking. Now as he's walking here, Dallas Police Officer J.D. Tippit would have been driving his car up here. Now, I don't know how they know this, because everything, I don't know. You don't know what to believe, but supposedly, J.D. Tippit came up and they already had a description of the guy who killed Kennedy, which I don't know how they can have that. Kind of just goes against with the conspiracies, this and that, but he saw Oswald and said to himself, hey, that guy kind of fits the description, so he pulls him over. And he doesn't pull him over, but J.D. Tippit parks his car right where this X is. Look at that, the X is still here to this day. Parks his car there. Oswald would have been right over here. And as soon as J.D. Tippit got out of the car, Oswald pulls out his handgun and shoots him 3 times. Then supposedly Oswald comes around the back, just like this, and shoots him a 4th time. All right here. But it's just like JFK, they still have the X marks the spot today. Wow. Very sad. And then straight up here on the corner, they have a memorial. Actually, if you type it into Google Maps, J.D. Tippit Memorial, I'll take you right here. Let's check this out. Officer J.D. Tippit, number 22nd 963. At this intersection, Dallas Police Officer J.D. Tippit was murdered by Lee Harvey Oswald. Wow, they actually don't even have allegedly in here. He was murdered by Lee Harvey Oswald 45 minutes after President JFK was assassinated in Dealey Plaza. After the assassination, Oswald fled to his rooming house, which they were, neighborhood where Officer Tippit was assigned. Oswald appeared at Hardy's shoe store, where we're going to next. So after Oswald made the shot and walked straight towards the movie theater, where we're going to next. Man, before we go, this is just a really sad spot too, just like Dealey Plaza. Just kind of want to give one more last respects to Officer J.D. Tippit, young guy. I think he was only in his 20s, I could be wrong, but right here is where it all happened back in 1963. And the X is still there today. All right, let's continue on the route of Lee Harvey Oswald today. Back in the car heading to Jefferson, actually we're on Jefferson Boulevard. And this is the street where the Texas Theater is, movie theater that Oswald was going to. But he actually stops in a shoe store, Hardy's shoe store first. So when we get there, we'll discuss what happened. But he would have been walking right down this sidewalk. Alrighty, found some parking. It's always good. It's early, so a lot of these businesses aren't open yet. Like I said, his plan was to go and hide out in the Texas Theater, you know, an old movie theater back then. But there's a lot of police activity going on. Obviously, it has made its way around the news that that JFK was assassinated, was shot. So a lot of police activity. So actually Oswald goes right in here. This today, Liz Bridal. This was the old Hardy's shoe store. My gosh. And what's really cool, there's an interview I'll throw in of the store manager, Johnny Brewer. He actually plays a big part in this story, which we'll talk about when we get to the theater. But Johnny Brewer was the store manager when Oswald went in here. He said he was kind of hanging out like on this side, and he was acting suspicious, and Johnny Brewer was like, something's going on here. So I don't know for how long Oswald hangs out in Hardy's shoe store, but it's long enough for the manager to notice something's going on. So then Oswald leaves the shoe store and heads down to the theater. Now what's crazy is Johnny Brewer comes out of the store as well and follows Oswald right down this way to the theater. Let's go take a look there next.
Johnny, when was the first time you saw Lee Harvey Oswald?
Saw him at Friday afternoon, November 22nd. He walked into the lobby of my store.
How far in did he walk out there, John? Where,
just
for example?
A few feet. He was standing right about where those tennis shoes are right there, just about 5 feet from the door there.
What made you suspicious of this man who walked into the lobby?
Well, right after the president had been shot, they broadcast a description on the radio of this man. 5'8", 5'9", 150 pounds, and this Oswald matched the description. And well, just a few minutes before he walked into the lobby, on the radio they had a bulletin that an officer had been shot here in Oak Cliff, and he walked in. He matched the description. Looked scared, just the way he stood there.
You were standing right here behind the counter?
Standing right here behind the counter, listening to the radio.
And where did he walk to? How far into the lobby did he come?
He walked right into the right-hand side of the lobby there, just a few feet from the door, and stood there looking in at the shoes there.
It's cool that they have the interview right in, it was right in the store. So you can kind of see, obviously we can't get in right now, it's closed, but you can see what it looks like today versus back then. And welcome to the old Texas Theater. This thing is pretty dang old. It's cool they have a historical marker here though. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it does talk about on November 22nd, 1963, following the assassination of JFK, Oswald was apprehended in the auditorium here at the Texas Theater. So, anyway, ooh, big puddle. It's crazy that it's still here today. And it was a couple different things, I think, afterward. But now it's back to, look at it, you could come here and watch The friggin' Exorcist in 4K. All right, I'm getting sidetracked. Back to our story and what it went inside the theater. Now what's crazy is Johnny Brewer followed him in. So Johnny Brewer, the manager of Hardy's shoe store, followed behind Oswald. You know, he told the ticket desk lady to call the police. It's crazy to think, like, this is where it happened, and they caught him. And gosh, and it's crazy. This is like a time capsule. This literally looks like, you know, it did back then. Almost. That is so cool. I just love these old buildings like this, especially old theaters. Man. They even have Godzilla. Wow. Okay, I bet you this place looks really cool at night. And I just love that you can still come here and watch movies now. That's really cool. It'd be really cool to go inside. No, I can't see anything. Maybe someday we'll have to come see like a movie here. I would come here and see The Exorcist. That'd be really cool. But I think they still have the chair. And I think they have a label on it, like Oswald's seat or something like that. I think I heard that. I don't know how true that is, but I think I heard that. All right, let's go to the, behind the theater there's an alleyway. And this is basically where Johnny Brewer let the police in, and then they followed him to Lee Harvey Oswald. Made our way around back. This is the back of the theater building. I would assume it's these doors, but anyway, Brewer was inside the theater. He went and opened the doors for the police. Officer Nick McDonald was the first to reach Lee Harvey Oswald. Oswald famously said, quote unquote, "Well, it's over now." And then Oswald turned to pull his gun on Officer McDonald. Thankfully, it didn't go off. And then the police basically punched him in the eye. I think actually in the photos after, he's a black and blue eye. Basically beat him up, and then they took him out, and Oswald is screaming he's a victim of police brutality, but this is where they would have let the police in. Well, we made it to our next location, about, I don't know, a couple blocks down from Dealey Plaza, where the whole assassination happened. Anyway, allegedly, you know, Oswald shot the president. Once he is captured at the movie theater, he is brought here to the old municipal building, the old police station, which is now actually UNT Dallas Law Center. And he spends 2 days here being interrogated. Let's take a look. Right here, like I said today, the UNT Dallas Law Center. Oswald would spend 2 days here being interrogated. Also denied murdering both JFK and Officer J.D. Tippit. And then, 2 days later, as we all know, when Oswald was being transported to the county jail, Ruby snuck in the building through the basement and would shoot Oswald in the gut. Oswald was taken to Parkland Hospital, where he died at 1:07 p.m.
Oswald died at 1:07 our time in the operating room of the gunshot wound which he had received.
Would you describe his last moments on the operating table, please?
The last moments were rather hectic. He had a cardiac arrest from all the massive blood loss and massive injury. The last few minutes were spent in cardiac resuscitation, open heart massage, electrical defibrillation, internal defibrillation, and finally there were absolutely no signs of life at all, fixed dilated pupils and all the signs of death.
Now, what actually really annoys me about this, they made a museum in here all about when Oswald spent his time here. And it's done so well. I'm going to throw photos in now to show you. But what pisses me off is it's not open to the public. So I understand this is a school. It's a school of law right now. And they don't want to let anybody in. So they do like private events and stuff. Or like I saw a thing, you know, alumni. They were doing an alumni thing where they can come in and tour the museum, and they take you into where Oswald's cell was. I think we'll go check it out in a bit. Basement where Ruby would have entered is either on this side or this side of the building. But they don't, it's not open to the public. So it's like, man, I want to tour this museum. They have everything set up so well, where he was interrogated, where he did the press conference, where they take you even down and show you where Ruby shot him. Like I said, where his cell was, and it's not open to the public. Why is that? If anybody out there who works here sees this, why are you not open to the public? It's ridiculous. On a side note, do you ever see the 80s movie RoboCop? Well, guess what? It was filmed, this is a movie location. This was City Hall in RoboCop, and they filmed it all right here on the street. Actually, back in the 80s, these were all buildings right here. It's just a park now, but I did do a full-blown RoboCop movie filming location, so if you're interested, go check that out. But yeah, fun fact. All right, now let's head down to, I guess, one of these sides of the building to see where possibly Jack Ruby snuck in the basement where he shot Oswald. Now made our way to the side of the building. We were just straight up there. this is possibly, it's either this side or there's an exact replica on the opposite side that both look like that. But that leads to the basement where Jack Ruby snuck in and shot Oswald in the gut. So like I said, I'm not sure if it's this side of the building or the opposite side, but like I said, basically same thing on this side. It's also interesting is there's these steps that go down. Pretty sure he did not come in this way because I'm pretty sure it was through like the garage entrance he came in. So for argument's sake, this very well could be exactly where Jack Ruby went in, shot Oswald. All right, we have one more location. Like I said, after this, just to keep our timeline in order, Oswald would have been shot by Jack Ruby. They would have rushed him over to Parkland Memorial Hospital, which is, I don't know, 6 blocks or so that way. We're not going there because it's just the hospital. Would have died at 1:07 p.m. 2 days after JFK. Ironically enough, the same hospital that JFK was rushed to. I always thought that was kind of interesting. But anyway, our final stop is we're going to go to Oswald's grave. It's in Fort Worth, about 35 minutes from here. I've been there once before. They don't make it easy to find because they don't want you to know where he is, but I remember where he is. So let's head over to Fort Worth, Texas, check out the grave of Lee Harvey Oswald. And we have arrived. I was here, gosh, maybe 3 years ago at this cemetery. I did a video just on Oswald's grave itself. Actually, I just had a good 10-minute conversation with these folks. They're originally from Wisconsin, from now Florida, and they go around. They don't do videos like I do or anything, but they just go around to all these famous graves, and they stopped right here. So here we go. The final resting spot of Lee Harvey Oswald. It's funny, I was just talking to that gentleman, and he's like, do you know anything about the original headstone? I said, the only thing I know was this is not the original. It was like people were breaking it off, and there was half of it was stolen, or the whole thing was stolen, something along those lines. But then they just put that there. So he's buried 6 feet below us. You know, I usually give a little tap on the ground. Obviously, I'm not gonna do it with that, or with Oswald. Who knows if he was the only one who shot JFK, or acted alone, or there was others involved. But either way, however you look at it, he was involved at the end of the day. There's too many things that line up, and 99% sure he killed Officer J.D. Tippit. Even if he had nothing to do with JFK, he shot and killed a young officer. That part, I said, is pretty much proven. And then y'all are gonna ask, who's Nick Beef? Just like those people did, and it's funny, I got to explain to them. So really quick, from what I understand, there's a comedian out there, you can find it on YouTube. He actually did an interview, but there's a comedian out there, I forget his name, but he bought this little plot right here, and there's nobody actually named Nick Beef. He just slapped that name on there, and it's because when people would come to the cemetery here, if people will go to the desk and say, where's Lee Harvey Oswald buried, supposedly they will not tell you. I never asked, I found out where he was on my own, but supposedly they won't tell you. But if you ask for Nick Beef, they'll tell you where he is, and that's how you find Oswald's grave. So what is interesting is when I was here 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, when I was here 3 or 4 years ago, you could put in Google Maps Lee Harvey Oswald gravesite, and it would come up. However, this time they must have taken it down. I don't know how that works with Google Maps, but they must have taken it down because it's not here. It's like not there anymore. So I actually had to go off my memory of where we parked and Yeah, same spot. So anyway, if anybody wants to come here, just kind of show you. Straight ahead's the main entrance. There's the fountain right there. Come to this pink mausoleum like that. Here's this tree, and he's right over here. Actually, with those people being here, I was like, they're definitely looking for him, so it was easy for me to find today, but somebody left. Roses. Yeah, right here is the final resting place of Lee Harvey Oswald. There you have it, folks. All right, y'all, that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you stayed till the end, thank you very much. I have other JFK videos. I'm gonna actually make a playlist, so you can go into my playlist and see the other JFK videos I did. Like I said, if you want to see the John F. Kennedy version of this, his final like 24 hours, let me know. Maybe I'll film that next year. But hope you enjoyed. This was kind of fun to go around a lot of locations I have never been to. So if you liked it, thumbs up, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Take care.